Okay, so are you ready to dive into a world where, like, numbers and cosmic energy are all kind of swirling together?
I'm all for it.
All right, let's do it. Today we're going to try to unlock some secrets hidden in the pages of a book called Shams al-Marif.
The Book of the Son of Gnosis.
Exactly. And we're lucky enough to have some excerpts from the original Arabic, which is, not something you come across every day.
It's a rare treat, especially when you're dealing with a 13th century grimoire.
Right. It's not your typical bedtime reading.
Not unless you're looking for a bit of magic before bed.
Maybe a little more magic than I bargained for. But seriously, these excerpts, they're like those treasure maps you see in the old adventure stories.
How so?
Well, they're filled with these tables that connect Arabic letters to numbers, all these astrological symbols, and even what seem like magic squares.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's like they're showing us a system of knowledge where language, math, and the cosmos are all woven together.
Exactly. It's a lot to wrap your head around, but that's what these deep dives are for, right?
Absolutely. To unravel these mysteries and see what we can learn.
So, first things first, we gotta set the stage. We're dealing with a text attributed to Ahmad ibn Ali al-Buni, a scholar from 13th century Egypt. And when we say grimoire,
people often think of those old spell books, with all sorts of rituals and maybe a few questionable ingredients thrown in.
Yeah, like something a wizard would keep hidden in their basement.
Well, it's not entirely off the mark. Grimoires were essentially collections of practical techniques, rituals, and beliefs that were related to magic. They offer this really fascinating glimpse into how people in the past tried to make sense of and interact with forces they believed were shaping their world.
It's like their way of trying to understand the forces they couldn't see or explain.
And perhaps even harness them to some degree.
Right. And in the case of the Shams al-Marif, well, it's developed a certain reputation over the years.
A reputation for what exactly?
For containing knowledge that, shall we say, might be a little too potent for the average Joe.
Ah, yes, the ever-present allure of forbidden knowledge. It's understandable, though, especially in a time when exploring the unseen realm could land you in hot water with the authorities.
Right, one wrong move and you're branded a heretic or something.
Exactly. So, discretion was paramount. But instead of getting bogged down in the controversies, how about we focus on what we can decipher from these excerpts?
Yeah, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. You mentioned something called gematria earlier.
Right. Have you come across that before?
It rings a bell, but maybe just a quick refresher.
Of course, gematria is a system that assigns numerical values to letters, much like the Hebrew Kabbalah tradition. You can actually see it clearly in the table on page 17 of the excerpts.
Oh, right, I see it now. It's like each Arabic letter has its own numerical counterpart.
Precisely.
Okay, so it's like a code, and if you know the key, you can unlock all these hidden meanings.
Exactly. And for those who practiced gematria, numbers weren't just arbitrary symbols. They held inherent power and meaning. So by using gematria, they could potentially uncover deeper layers of significance in all sorts of texts.
So like secret messages hidden in plain sight.
Possibly even that. But also, it could have been a way to tap into the deeper, more mystical dimensions of religious texts, prayers, or even magical incantations.
Wow, it's like they believed the universe itself was speaking in this numerical language.
And that by understanding that language, they could gain a deeper understanding of the universe and its workings.
That's incredible. And speaking of the universe, we can't forget those astrological symbols scattered throughout the excerpts.
Ah, yes. The celestial connection.
Right. It's like every page we turn, we're reminded that this system of knowledge is deeply intertwined with the cosmos.
Absolutely. The presence of planetary and zodiacal symbols really highlights the belief that celestial bodies had a very real and tangible influence on earthly matters.
It's like they believed that the stars held the key to understanding our lives and destinies.
And they weren't alone in that belief. This was a time when astronomy and astrology were deeply intertwined. Two sides of the same coin, you might say.
So we've got this cosmic connection, right? Like the universe is speaking to us through the stars, and we can maybe decipher those messages using this numerical language embedded in Arabic script.
It's like trying to piece together a giant cosmic jigsaw puzzle.
With the Shams al-Marif giving us some of the pieces.
And remember those squares we talked about earlier, the ones with all the letters and numbers arranged inside them?
Yeah, the magic square.
Exactly. Those weren't just mathematical curiosities. They played a really important role in something called talismanic magic.
Okay, so magic squares. Talismanic magic. Break it down for me.
Imagine you're looking for some kind of protection. Or maybe you want to attract some positive change in your life.
Okay, I'm following.
A practitioner of talismanic magic might create an amulet or a charm for that purpose. inscribing it with specific letters, numbers, and symbols, often taken from these magic squares.
So the squares were like blueprints for different outcomes.
You could say that they believed that by arranging the elements in the right way, you could tap into specific energies and influence events.
It's like each square was a recipe for a desired result.
And the fact that al-Buni included these squares in the Shams al-Ma'arif tells us something really important. He wasn't just interested in abstract theories. He wanted to provide practical tools that people could use in their lives.
It makes you wonder about the man himself, al-Buni. Living back in the 13th century, he was right in the middle of this incredible period of intellectual and cultural growth in the Islamic world, wasn't he?
Absolutely. The 13th century was a time when scholars like Ibn Sina and Ibn Rushd were making groundbreaking discoveries in medicine, philosophy, and science. It was a golden age of learning.
And at the same time, you had these mystical traditions like Sufism that were offering pathways to spiritual enlightenment.
Exactly. So it was a world where reason and revelation weren't seen as contradictory, but rather as complementary ways of understanding the universe and humanity's place within it.
They were all seeking knowledge, just from different perspectives.
And that's what makes studying this period so fascinating. They were pushing the boundaries of knowledge in all these different directions.
It's like they were trying to map out not just the physical world, but also these unseen realms of spirits, energies, and hidden connections.
And that brings us to a really interesting question. How are we, with our modern worldview, supposed to approach a book like the Shams al-Ma'arif?
Are we meant to take it literally as a guidebook for magic? Or is there something more to it than that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's tempting to draw a hard line between science and mysticism, to see them as completely separate ways of looking at the world.
Like science is all about logic and reason, and mysticism is all about, well, the mystical, right?
But al-Buni and his contemporaries, they seem to exist in this space where those boundaries were much more fluid.
So it's more like they saw connections where we see divisions, like they were trying to find a bigger picture that encompassed both the seen and the unseen.
Yeah, and maybe by exploring those different ways of seeing, even the ones that seem kind of out there to us now, we can open ourselves up to new possibilities, new ways of understanding our place in all of this.
Okay, but we've talked about the ciphers, the astrology, the talismans. It still feels like there's something more, something deeper we haven't quite grasped yet about this book.
Well, it was right there in the title, isn't it?
The Shams al-Ma'arif.
The Book of the Son of Gnosis. That word gnosis,
Yeah.
it hints at a special kind of knowledge.
Not just facts and figures, but a deeper understanding.
An intuitive grasp of the true nature of reality. And the sun, with its life-giving light, it could be a metaphor for the source of that wisdom.
So it's not just a book of spells, it's a guidebook for a journey.
A journey toward enlightenment, toward connecting with that deeper reality that exists beyond the material world.
It's like those magic squares again. On one hand, they're practical tools. But on another, they're glimpses into a cosmic order, a way to contemplate how everything fits together.
And that might be the most valuable thing we can take away from the Shams al-Ma'arif, even if we're not planning to start drawing magic squares ourselves.
It's about changing our perspective, opening ourselves up to the possibility of a deeper meaning behind everything.
It's a reminder that knowledge can be found in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the most powerful magic is simply asking the right questions.
And being open to the answers, wherever they might lead. That's a pretty good place to wrap up, I think. From ancient Arabic script to the edges of the cosmos, we've journeyed through some pretty fascinating territory today. Thanks to the Shams al-Ma'arif, we've been challenged to rethink our assumptions about knowledge, magic, and the universe itself. And to our listeners, we leave you with this. Is this book ultimately about harnessing unseen forces to bend a world to our will? Or is it about something much greater, a quest for self-discovery and a deeper understanding of our place within the cosmos? Keep those questions in mind as you continue your own explorations. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.